Well, new inflation numbers show that consumer prices came in hotter than expected in September. The increase in the consumer price index was down slightly compared to August, but still, prices are 8.2% higher than they were last September. Fuel is up 18.2%, food 11.2%, and shelter 6.6%. Unfortunately for potential homebuyers, mortgage rates just keep climbing and are now at a 20-year high. The average rate sits just below 7%. They've more than doubled in the past year as the Fed pushes forward with its aggressive interest rate hikes. Well, some Americans will get some relief, though. The roughly 70 million Social Security recipients will see the largest cost of living increase in over 40 years. The average retiree will see their monthly payment rise by $146. For more, I want to bring in Kaj Larsen. He's a journalist and a former Navy SEAL. So, Kaj, we talked about Social Security recipients and cost of living increase for them. What about military? Inflation is hitting military families especially hard. The DoD adjusted its budget to a 3.9% inflation number, higher than the year before, but still falling way short of the inflation we've seen in 2022. Military pay just jumped 2.7% only. What kind of changes would you like to see going into the next fiscal year?
Well, Pamela, you described the economic climate and forecast precisely, and unfortunately this is disproportionately impacting our military families and our military service members. So that 2.7% pay raise you described, that's set by Congress in light of the latest CPI numbers, the latest inflation reports. Inflation seems to be really sticky around that 8.5%. That means effectively the military got a 6% pay cut this year. So you're seeing, once again, those that are asked to sacrifice the most are being compensated the least. And so I think it's really important that DoD steps up to the plate and does something about this. They've recognized it as a critical national security issue, and they've even gone so far as to do things like incentivize the commissary to lower food prices by 25% so that military families can afford food. This is a real crisis, and it's one that the DoD alone can't solve. So that's why we've kind of grabbed the Wall Street bull by the horns over at my company, Guild, and tried to focus on raising the financial health and literacy of the military community.
Yeah, I mean, it is just absurd to me. I mean, when I think about it, these are people serving our country, and so many of them they barely can pay their bills. They're experiencing food insecurity because of inflation. I mean, in 2020, even before this inflation, there was an analysis that showed 24% of active duty service members experience food insecurity. Inflation is only going to make this worse. I mean, tell us about what it's like when you talk to these military families. I mean, do you hear about families worried about where they're going to get their next meal?
Yeah, unfortunately, our military families, I mean, the nation is hurting, but our military families particularly are feeling these acute effects of inflation. Everything from food prices to, when you're describing the increase, the Fed rate hike in mortgage lending rates, that also disproportionately affects military families because they have to move every couple of years. So they carry these very burdensome, sometimes 30-year mortgages, right? And that can be an extra complicating factor for military families. So once again, across the board, the slope is slanted against the people who are on the front lines serving our nation.